It is time for the Talk with Tariro. Hello and welcome. And on the show today we have a media entrepreneur. He is one person who wears so many hats. So by saying media entrepreneur, somehow I feel like I'm limiting him, but he will try and unpack who exactly he is. And what we want to really talk about today on the show is to look at the Zimbabwean arts and media industry, because oftentimes we hear his voice either on social media, on television, in the newspapers. And when I'm looking at him, he is one person who's quite passionate about the growth and excellence of the Zimbabwean media and arts industry. I am talking about none other than Plot Marco. Welcome to the Talk with Tariro.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you on our show.
I feel honored to be here.
So maybe for those, the few that might not know who Plot is, who is Plot Marco?
Wow. Plot Marco is Zimbabwean. I was born in Madziwa, Shamva, and this is where I spent the greater part of my childhood before enrolling for school in Glenview. So my life was torn between Glenview and Shamva. And pretty much this is where a lot of my creative imagination started, you know. And over the years, I studied journalism at COSA, and I also studied a diploma in marketing and public relations. And I started Jibilika Dance Festival, and organized a lot of initiatives around youth culture, dance, and so forth. Traveled around the world with a lot of artists, gave platforms to some artists that became stars. And fast forward, I have been involved with different publications as a contributor, and also been the managing editor for a magazine that was focusing on the arts and culture called Roots at one time. And I'm a co-founder of Mafue International Festival of Dance, co-founder of the Zimbabwe Hip Hop Summit, Zim Dancehall Summit, and I was involved in the Zim Dancehall Awards for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
And 7 years ago, I started Earground Media, which I think for most people, this is where a lot of people now know me. But behind the scenes, I was also involved with the Amplifier, Creative Business Conference. And over the past 2 years, I ran a festival in Cologne, Germany.
In Germany, yes.
Yeah, Moto. And Moto is basically a global gateway for Zimbabwean art.
Yeah.
And pretty much that's me, you know, the media, the creative side, and also just being loud online.
So what really pushes you? What drives you? Because looking at you starting Jibilika, traveling the world with the artists, what really pushed you? Because for me, when I'm looking at it, this is where it all started. Everything else that you then went on to found, and then being a leader, being what? Yeah, in all those areas. What really pushes you?
I think what pushes me is creativity.
Yeah.
So I'm maybe the creative talent that I have is graphic design. I'm a graphic designer. Outside of that, just organizing and putting things together. But I feed off what the creatives do. Yeah. So the creative energy, the creative talent that I see around is what feeds my imagination, my desire to do what I'm doing. So Jibilika, I started it because I'd seen young people in my neighborhood dancing. And because there was no competition happening then for young people that were doing hip hop and breakdance, I saw the need to actually create an opportunity. Earground was born out of the desire to create an online portal that would allow anyone to access creative, cultural, and entertainment content and information from Zimbabwe, which was balanced, which was well researched and well thought out. Because I was living in Germany for the past 10 years, and anyone who's living in the diaspora, their quest, their drive, their hunger is to connect back home. Yeah. And this either comes through connection to family and relatives, or connection through content, information. You want to watch what's happening at home, listen to the music that's happening at home, and this is what brings you home away from home. And I got into that space where I felt like, there isn't really much that's happening. But then I think it was mainly Zimbabwe which was trying to do so much. So I saw a gap, I saw a space, I saw a need, and then I started Earground as a way of keeping my ear on the ground whilst I was away from the ground. And with Moto, it was also seeing that Zimbabwe has got so much talent, but this talent, which is world class in its quality, lacks the ability and access to opportunities beyond the borders.
Yeah.
So some of the stars that are there in Mondoro who are doing amazing Mbira music, they will never realize their full potential unless the world out there experiences their art. So that sort of propelled me to desire to start a festival called Moto Moto, and the name literally came from Mutare because in 2008 I'd gone to Mutare and been to a place called Moto Moto where the hustlers, where everything really happens, and I felt like, hey, the spirit of Zimbabweans is that of like a fire that drives us, the fire that gives us the resilience. So why not have a festival that speaks to that resilience and the desire to actually celebrate Zimbabwe? So in a nutshell, I love Zimbabwe, I love Zimbabwean art, and my desire is to actually see the betterment and the improvement of what we have in the creative and the media space in the country.
Yeah, and looking at you said that, is it the Zimdatso?
Zimdatso,
yes. Pushing that type of music. What pushed you? What had you seen as a gap in terms of just promotion of Zimdatso?
So, Zimdatso just started as a wave. Young people that have a lot of passion, young people that became newspapers would tell us what's happening in Bari, in Glenville, Budiriro, through their different songs. So Magaro Agana's Killer T is literally talking about a story. He's a combi conductor and he's seeing this story happening, this situation unfold, and the next thing he pens a song. That song makes him a star, right? Say Colors comes up with his own songs, Mabanditi, Mutamurkubvira, Mapuri, and then the realities of what's happening in those neighborhoods. So if you listen to every Zimdanso song that came out, especially from around 2013, 2014, 2015, these songs literally mirrored what is happening in society. And you didn't need to buy a newspaper, you just needed to, because they were recording these songs in real time.
Listen to the songs.
Yes.
So we will continue plot. We just need to take a short break. Stay tuned. We will be back shortly. Welcome back. We continue with our discussion. We have Plot Mako, who is a media entrepreneur. Yes, Plot, you're talking about, particularly when you're looking at Zimdanso, you actually don't need to go into the communities. Just listening to those that type of music, I think that's your ear ground on it when you want to get that appreciation. Yeah, so I know I cut you short before you...
So you find, as much as the talent was coming out, there was a lot that also needed to be fixed with regards to grooming etiquette and just nurturing and mentorship around the artists, the producers, the promoters and everything. And then there's a culture that also became very vulnerable and also became a vehicle for promoting a lot of negative behavior, if you look at substance abuse and other things. And if you look at some of the artists, we've actually lost them to drugs, which is a very sad thing. And this is what somehow compelled me to say, look, let's have a conference where we have these young people come together and discuss and try to shape their cultures. So possibly we can be piano level if it's properly curated. And with the awards, I was seeing an opportunity, and my friends, Phineas Mshai and other guys came together, organized the awards, and they invited me to be part of them. So I was only making a contribution to the list that I could.
When you're looking at Zimbabwean art, media, music, where are we? Looking at you as somebody who's world-traveled, you spoke about, even when you're looking at Zimdanso artists, your wish was to have that whole grooming etiquette, making somebody as professional as they can be. Where are we as a country?
We're still bursting at seams with so much talent, with so much potential. But potential unrealized remains potential. So this is where we are. We have got the talent, we've got the skills, we've got the stories, we've got literally everything that it takes for us to actually become global superstars. We have got Zimbabweans that are even strategically positioned, that are running some of the biggest creative and music initiatives. If you look at Sony Music, UK, Africa, the director is Taponesco Mavunga. She's Zimbabwean. If you go to Viacom in South Africa, you find there are Zimbabweans. If you go to Empire, Munyacha Netsa, Empire is the biggest record label in Africa. Munyacha Netsa is Zimbabwean. If you go to Namibia, the biggest promoter there, Gordon J is a Zimbabwean.
You do know your stuff, eh?
So if you go to Hollywood, you find, Yodana Gorillas. So I think outside of Nigeria, Zimbabwe is possibly one of the most strategically positioned countries when it comes to creative potential. In every decision-making space, if you look at the biggest shows on Netflix that are produced from Africa, Mona Lisa Isango, she's Zimbabwean, right? And she's directing and producing this, right? So with all of that talent, where are we? We are at such a point where we all need just to converge and realize each other's strength and potential and say, look, as a country, what's our ultimate goal? What do we want to be known for? What do we want to celebrate Zimbabwe for, right? Can we put together different skills, different talents, different hands, and produce something that is world class? So the talent that we're seeing coming from Chegutu through the likes of Atenda Chings, it's talent that could be on the same stage with Ira Star. If you take Atenda Chings there, Ira Star there, Tyler there, you literally see that these guys are on the same pedestal. What's only missing possibly is the money, the resources, and a collective desire to say, look, we have done well in Zimbabwe. Can we actually make it beyond Zimbabwe and tell the Zimbabwean story to the global village?
And plot being plot, whenever we have an event, your critique voice is often heard. I remember reading, was it on one social media platform, someone said, Atanga mkomana wenara. Because you're always coming in with this other voice when there is one type of award, when there is one type of event. Here, I'm strictly focusing on entertainment. What drives you in terms of wanting to see the best when it comes to Zim entertainment industry?
I think it's observing and seeing that we still have got areas where we are lacking. And with a bit of the exposure that I've had traveling around the world and seeing how things are done at stages where we often regard as international, global platforms, and then seeing the gap and the discrepancies with regards to our situation back at home. My desire and my interest there is to say, look, Freeman can literally hold a world-class concert.
Exactly.
And these things are not imaginary. They are a reality. And Freeman just did it last week. Right? He put up like an amazing, amazing concert. Right? So it's not only looking at things that are not happening, but actually point to examples of success and say, look, this is what actually has been done. Look at Job Praise and what is done. Someone who came to Harare not so many years ago, growing up in Uzumba and coming to Harare and becoming the biggest star that we have in the country. That speaks volumes. You look at the amount of work that he puts in, just not his music alone, but even his outfit, his band. He's got one of the biggest bands in the country. So how many people is he employing, right? He has literally created a whole industry, videographers, fashion designers, makeup artists, and so forth. And this is what a lot of our events could possibly be, where it's a collection of different efforts. There's someone who's running around selling chips. Look at what happened in Kadoma. Kadoma Music Festival has literally transformed a sleeping town, which has so much gold, into an amazing international festival. This is one of the biggest festivals in Africa. And where is it happening in Kadoma? Who would have imagined? We're having Breezy Signal, Chris Martin, Diamond Platinum, Kofo Olomide. These artists have all performed in Kadoma. So wherever they go, their story of Zimbabwe is not of Harare. It's the story of Kadoma. So it brings so much pride of that city. It brings so much resources and how much money people actually make. People that are selling food, people, all the vendors that are getting money, all the makeup artists. Look at an event like Duke and Slay.
Accommodation as well.
Accommodation as well. Look at Duke and Slay. In terms of events, this is one event that has grown super huge. And with Duke and Slay, how many people are being employed? How many people are selling clothes? Because whenever they introduce a new clothing thing,
there's a theme.
If you've got 15,000 people coming to an event and they're dressing in new regalia, new clothes that have been brought in, which means that there is actually a whole community of people that are selling clothes that are making money, right? So they're not only empowering the musicians. So if you look at the makeup artists, on the day and the day before, you go around salons, they're fully booked. You cannot find any salon that has got space for anyone to do makeup, right? If you look at people that are selling food, they're selling drinks and so forth, it's a whole industry. So it's looking at events from a level of excellence that we could actually create. And I'm glad to say we're living at a time where we're not just talking about events happening in South Africa, but we can also reference quality events happening in Zimbabwe. So if events don't happen so well, it's also good to point out and say, oh, you need to improve this, you need to improve that.
Yeah. Indeed, when I'm looking at and listening just to what Plot is saying, his passion is actually mainly driven by even wanting to see the growth of our own entertainment industry. And he's really unpacked how, as much as we might take it lightly, but our musicians, all our entertainers, they're actually contributing a lot to our annual GDP. They're contributing a lot when you talk about unemployment. He gave an example of Japresa. How many people does he employ? And even looking at how much do they pay to our own revenue collector. So you see that the arts, they've got a lot to play, and it's up to us to ensure that they are operating at their optimum because they are part of our economy. Join us after this short break. We continue with our discussion on the Talk with Tariro. We are with Plot Marco. Now I'm going on to where people talk about Scott as a Plot being controversial. Past months, past weeks, you've been very vocal about one of our musical institutions. Care to elaborate around that and where you are seeing the missing link? And for me, sadly, they actually had elections, and we saw it was an all-man band, no woman elected there. So share with us around that, Plot.
Wow, I mean, this is a very interesting topic. I've been passionate about it, researching around Zimura, advocating for excellence, transparency, and just good corporate governance around Zimura. By then, they were the sole collective management organization for copyright in Zimbabwe. And they collect quite a lot of money from different shops, different businesses that are operating that use music.
Different broadcasters
as well. But the bulk of this money does not reach the average artist.
The artist now.
Yeah, so if you see, for example, if a biggest artist in the country, with Japresa, gets up to between 2,000 and 5,000 annually from royalties, and you can imagine airplay not only on radio but on the streets everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And his single booking is like much more than that for a single show. So in a year, you surely get played and you only get like 5,000. But then Zimura is collecting well over $1 million in a year, right? And after collecting that money, what percentage of that money goes to the composers, the artists, you know? And we've seen also a lot of behavior that is undesirable around Zimura, where they have become what they call themselves the landlord, you know, and having this very arrogant attitude and behavior towards different stakeholders. So if the media is questioning certain things, give responses.
Yes.
If the artists are also questioning certain things, also give responses. And if you look at the elections that were recently held, there was no transparency. You know, there were a lot of proxy votes that participated in the elections that could not be verified or accounted for because of the nature in which the elections were done. If you look at how the new body is constituted, you cannot tell me that this is 2025 and we have a 6-man board with no single
female musician. Yeah. So who's representing
them? Especially at the time now we've got the Gemma Griffith, the Felina, the Tamimo, the Nishati's. Yeah. We're living at a time where we have more female artists that are actually doing amazing.
They're doing so well.
They're doing so well, right? So it's not them looking for tokenism, but to have an equal seat on the table
and to be seen and be heard. So when you make that noise, do they listen to you? Do they try and engage you as well?
They have engaged me quite a lot of times. I've also engaged them. Yeah. I've given them a platform also to speak and communicate. But they always argue that if you're not a member, you'll never really understand our work. So I don't know this voodoo business that they do, which for me leaves a lot to be desired, because let it be clear, how much money are you collecting? How much money is going to the
For example, just to say, how much are you collecting from ZBC?
Yes.
Yeah, and with 4 or 5 stations.
Now, we've got at least 17 radio stations in the country. Almost every university has got a radio station. Every community has got a radio station. There's a bit of money that's coming from there. So surely our artists cannot be struggling. Yeah. So for me, it's just wanting to see Zimura do things properly. And we've seen Zimbabwe Union of Musicians, Zimbabwe Idide Tonga. She's been very vocal about these things. Say, look, there is actually things that don't be done well. And these are their members. Yeah. But what do? They fire anyone who speaks out. Right? They say you're violating the Constitution, you cannot speak out. So what kind of an organization does not allow its members to actually actively participate and speak out? Yeah. And I feel this is something that artists need to be proactive about and make sure that Zimura returns to a fair, accountable and transparent way of doing business.
Indeed, holding everyone accountable. We often talk about our artists not being recognized, not receiving the dues that are due to them. And this is one case in point where Plot has really been in every newspaper, been on radio, been on what. And we are saying, if we're looking at the welfare of our artists, the welfare particularly of our musicians, please let's just do justice. So when you're looking at the whole arts industry in Zimbabwe, Plot, what would you say this should be done? And if this is done, we could be somewhere. What is your big ask around that?
I think the big ask is putting in money. We need money from the government. We need money from the corporate. We need money from the civil society. We need money literally from the audience to support our arts. Our artists are doing the most. If you look at some of the studios where some of these big hits are produced, you would imagine what could actually come out of those studios if they were properly equipped, if there was proper training. So we need institutions that also train and equip our people, especially in the light of new technologies. Now there's AI, there's virtual reality, there's a lot of augmented reality, there's a lot of new technologies. And this technology can literally empower youngsters in different communities who could do magic, who do amazing things. Yeah. So we need to invest towards the educational infrastructure around our creative economy. We need to invest in money. We need to also create institutions that are bankable, not just individuals. So we should actually be able to see institutions that are capable of driving our industry. So every of our music awards are problematic. There's always an issue here and there, right? Yes, globally, ours always create a lot of conversations, but the way in which ours do create, it speaks to the lack of, institutional capacity. If I'm running Airground, it should cease to just be Plot Marco. Yeah. Right? People should be able to see integrity. It should not just be by my sentiments. Exactly. Because if it's my sentiments, if I don't like Tariro, and then I'll always be airing sentiments that are anti-Tariro. Yes. But if it's at a level where now this is business, this is professionalism. So I think in a nutshell, we just need to create a creative economy that has a chain that says someone is making music, someone is distributing music, someone is promoting that music, someone is making film. Because film, music, dance, theater, all these art forms, they're interconnected. Yes. The people that are building buildings and houses and other things, they also contribute somehow to the film industry and so forth. So we need each other. We just need to have that collective push and agenda. But I'm actually happy now that we have got young people in places of influence. Look at Napoleon Nyani, who's the director of the National Arts Council, and the effort that he's actually been trying to make. So we're not literally off the rail. We are going there, but for us to move a bit faster, to move a bit collectively, we just need to have a deliberate intentional approach.
Indeed, let's have that deliberate and intentional approach to having our arts industry succeeding, performing well, supported both socially, financially. The main point that he is actually driving at is if we support them financially, offering those resources, indeed, that excellence that we always want to see, to perform the same way as and be at the same level as even international artists. The support has to come from us. Until we meet again next week, it's goodbye.